Downboard.
I think I changed my glasses. I have to put them back so they don't reflect.
You rolling?
Yeah, rolling.
Three cameras, ABC, mark.
Is that on purpose that there's like that stack of pillows back there?
Yeah, I was trying to make a little shadow. You know, I can take it down.
I guess it's fine.
I was trying to get rid of some of the blaring light, you know?
Yeah, okay, you can't tell what.
Yeah,
All right, so tell us, what's motivated you? What has been your calling in life?
Well, my calling in my teaching and in my research has always been this feeling that we can overcome the distinction that philosophy gives us between subjects and objects, between self and world, by becoming committed oh nuts, I have to start over. Mark, it's that thing we were talking about so long ago, I've forgotten it now. Taking a stand on our being is not we have found a better formulation. A kind of involvement, but there was something else that, like the...
Oh, responsibility.
Yeah, the responsibility for bringing out...
You gotta say it again.
I know, but I'm going to get it with you.
For disclosing worlds,
Yeah, so I've always had the calling, although it's only become clearer to me more lately. You don't really know your calling while you're hearing it, that we human beings have the responsibility to bring out the meaning in human beings and in the world, and that the tradition both led us to appreciate that, but also then led us to cover it up. And we've got to understand how we lost it. And that's how we got from Plato to Descartes. And we have to go back and recuperate and appreciate how once upon a time we understood the craftsmanship and how it's our job to bring out, to nurture, to call forth, and so forth, the possibilities, the endless possibilities available to us in the world. And that's, I saw that in rebellion against the AI view that there was some way that we could mechanize us. This being involved. Oh boy, that's a big fight.
Okay, no, and I think we need to be more succinct anyway.
I know, it's always very hard to do this thing succinctly. Okay.
Right, no, I just think, okay, let's just get the main points out.
Okay.
The tradition had a tendency to make us in the world separate.
Yes.
Right?
That's the bad tradition, the one that goes from Plato to Descartes.
And you've been wanting to get a sense that you can't separate beings and our world.
That's right.
You can't recreate us outside of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't.
Remember, we had this slogan: you can't find a source of meaning outside the world, and you can't find the source of meaning in us either.
Right.
Then, because that's when you have to see that we're being in the world. It's in our commitment to take responsibility for and be open to what's calling us from the world.
So if we can let's try and make 4 steps. Let's try and make the step of rejecting the inner outer rule following notion of us beings that would make it so that we could just recreate us into a disembodied machine.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And then an exploration of what it is that makes us what we are and how we learn and master skills. How the history of being is taking us away from that, right? And how if we find it in our practices, we can go back to having a sense of the sacred and of a meaning inside our world instead of outside of it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Downstairs, Lola. Downstairs. Downstairs.
Start to flip or keep going?
What do you think? You feeling inspired?
I'm okay.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm inspired, but I'm okay. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. But I keep thinking, how do I start? I mean, I always start in response to your questions, but your question isn't going to be in the movie. So I just start out of the blue that I've gradually come to understand that my calling in my teaching and in my research has been to understand the kind of beings we are and to understand how where there could be meaning in our lives and how the philosophical tradition and the whole culture has tended to cover this up and lead us to think of ourselves as machines, which is what happened in the MIT and the artificial intelligence debate, in which that turned out to be wrong, or lead us to think of ourselves as somehow related to a supreme being outside the world. Rather, we have a calling and a responsibility to involve ourselves completely in the world and bring out the possibilities of us and the world at their best. And now where are we? Stop. I mean, think a minute.
That's good. I like that.
And now,
I think
So-
that you have to talk about I think you have to really, if we're gonna bring in some of this, like, a call to action, so to speak. The
Okay.
moral of the story is
Okay,
that
wait,
we
but
talk about
let-
the risk of
I'm-
losing this.
okay, but I'll get there, but you can remind me again in a minute. But, so I have to talk about how the tradition led everybody to think that there were subjects, we were subjects outside the world, and and objects, we were related to objects, and what we need to understand is that we are involved in the world in such a way that we are called to bring out the meaning of everything. And that's how far I got last time, and then I thought I knew how to go on. And that there is in our tradition a kind of marginal heritage which we have to get back to of craftsmanship and more generally mastery, whereby people are responding to the calling from the world to bring it out at its best. That's the next piece. And now, we have to take, now comes your call to action, and we risk losing this understanding of how meaning can be achieved by mastery and openness and risk-taking responsiveness to the world. We tend to let the tradition will cover that up, and we'll all just consider ourselves resources doing the standard thing, unless we can recover from the tradition and from the actual masters which we actually see on the screen. For instance, we have to recover the sense of being able to bring forth new, concrete, interesting aspects of ourselves in the situation, and we have to use that, understand that, to fight off the tendency of the bad side of the tradition, namely the turning us all into standard rule-following resources, in order to recover what we really are, beings in the world.
Pretty good, pretty good.
Getting better?
Getting better.
Okay, that may be the best you're going to get.
No. I think we already have a lot of good stuff there that I can piece together something powerful there. But I still don't.
Well, I had something, oh yeah, no, Mark had something that was different about me as a master and my students. That's not for me to say. But there was something else I was going to say. Oh, well, I guess I just didn't get to Elizabeth Gilbert. That's what I was going to have.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would really love to drive home the point that if we get away from this notion of us being able to be, just to be able to separate us and define us in this very kind of box us in as
Yeah.
these types of separate beings.
Right.
That we're able, without positing a transcendental other, to
Yeah.
find this sense of the sacred and
Okay, well,
and
that's
you
where we
could
want
say
to. That's where we
Elizabeth
want to.
Gilbert
That's
does
where.
this.
That's where we want to be when we finally understand mastery, and how it is a responsiveness to the richness and the calling in the world. Then we understand that the source of meaning in our lives isn't in us. That's the Cartesian tradition, and it isn't in some supreme being. That it's neither inside us nor outside the world, but it's in our way of being in the world, in our way of being in the world, that we encounter the sacred, namely this meaning, the memorable meanings that can be achieved by artists and sports people and so forth, but also by people like us, how that memorable meaning can be achieved and preserved and defended. And I saw an example, a brilliant example by Elizabeth Gilbert, who was explaining or describing the phenomenon that I'm trying to point out.
And what does she say in there?
Okay, I see. Elizabeth Gilbert, in which she was saying how the masters in flamenco, for instance, are able to sometimes achieve a kind of total involvement in the world, which brings forth the sacred right in front of the people who become drawn into experiencing it.
Very good. And I'd like to say, I don't think we need to deny the existence of God, but I like the idea that it doesn't, because this brings in the way you think about it, Mark, that it doesn't have to be an inner belief about something. You don't have to have a belief in this transcendental God that's outside of us, but we can find it. This is a bit how Manuel says it too. We find it in our very practices. This idea, this notion of God, without an inner belief in an outer transcendental being. Does that make sense?
We got to be careful. I don't know. The real secret is we got to get rid of ontotheology and preserve the sacred. And I don't know. Mark should say something about it. I mean, I think this is really where the Heidegger story doesn't quite mesh with your religion, in the sense that you don't have ontotheology, but you do have some being outside the world.
No, it's not acceptable.
Oh, because
Mormonism, but
he isn't. Okay, well, good then, because I want
It doesn't matter. I just like this idea. When you were saying it just now,
Yeah.